Yeah, obviously. Probably.
Everybody gets quiet.
Well, pretty laudable.
I won't do it next time.
Morning, councillors, CEO, directors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. The traditional custodians of the land on which we are privileged to meet represent a human link dating back over 2,000 generations as part of the oldest living culture on the planet. We pay our respects to the Indigenous elders, past and present, and recognise their continuing connection to our land and our community. And ladies and gentlemen in the public gallery, I draw your attention to the notice on the right-hand side of the screen there that this council meeting is being streamed live, recorded and published in accordance with the council's standing orders, including publishing on the council's website. By attending a public meeting of the Mackay Regional Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. And we are required to tell you that you may be subject to legal action if your actions or comments are deemed to be inappropriate or unacceptable. So, you've been told. So thank you very much. I declare open the meeting of the Mackay Regional Council for the 10th of April and welcome your attendance. Councillors, the pastor has not turned up this morning. Pastor Scott Jones was scheduled to be here with us, so let us join together to seek a blessing on our meeting. Lord, help us to be true, for great trust is placed in us. Help us to be strong, for there is much to dare. Help us to be humble, because we all have our weaknesses. For the gift of hope and for the hope of tomorrow, we are thankful to be able to look up and laugh and live. Give us guidance in our deliberations, protect our officers and staff and the community we serve, and watch over us all. Amen. Nobody absent on council business. There's no apologies. In condolences, councillors, I think it would be nice for the council to record a condolence for Eileen Welsh, who was Mackay's oldest resident and the last known survivor of the 1918 cyclone. She passed away on Tuesday, just 1 month shy of her 107th birthday, which was absolutely incredible. She regaled us last year, I can remember, with stories of her identical twin sister Edna and the tricks they used to play on their father and their teachers, and more disturbingly on their husbands. She was a tremendous lady and lived a fantastic life, and up until the last few months of her life when she had a fall. And I think it was a life well lived, and she was indeed a pleasure to know as one of our most enduring and iconic citizens. So if we could record our condolences to Eileen's family, which is quite extensive. Are there other condolences? No other condolences? Let's move on. Conflicts of interest. Any conflicts of interest to declare? No conflicts of interest. Confirmation of the minutes at 7.1 of the 27th of March. They've been circularised and nobody's come back to us. Would somebody like to move? Councillor Casey, seconded by Councillor Cam. Those in favour? Any against? It's carried. There's no business arising out of those minutes as notified to us. Mayoral minutes is none. Let's move on to the consideration of committee reports and recommendations. 10.1, the draft minutes of the Traffic Advisory Committee. Councillor May, seconded by Councillor Casey. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just really want to draw your attention to there's numerous amounts of speed reduction recommendations in the meeting report there, and also the finalisation of the truck parking, the creation of truck parking on Nebo Road to assist our motel owners there. So those proposals are put forward with these minutes, so that's been a huge amount of work undertaken by our officers in consultation with the motel owners, the truck users, drivers, and of course the residents of that area as well. So we're hopeful that we've come to a mutual arrangement of creating some specialised truck parking bays. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? I'll put the motion for adoption. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. 10.2 is the combined museums meeting minutes of the 13th of March. Councillor May, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor May.
Thank you very much. We're about very early this meeting. So I would just like to highlight the coordinator's position that had gone out for advertising and had been appointed. Unfortunately, the applicant had to withdraw, so we've now gone back out to advertise that position again. We had a very good update from Caitlin Davies, our volunteer coordinator, and she explained to the volunteers of the museums around the workplace health and safety, all of the requirements, insurance and all of that. So trying to simplify that for our volunteers, and Caitlin's working on that. We've been able to get our school tour bookings and our wedding bookings online for Greenmount, so that can be done online now, which is fantastic. Also is the logo that's been adopted and recommended as part of these minutes, that we have a logo that is utilised by all of the museums, so that we now can brand our media and advertising in that way. And if we get to establish heritage trails and that, we'll be utilising that same logo. We had an invitation from Mackay Tourism to give an update on the museums there, and I went and spoke to the volunteers at the Mackay Region Visitor Information Centre last week in Serena, and there's one planned for Mackay in the coming weeks as well. So overall, things are progressing well in the combined museums space. The other matter for consideration is we've been talking to the museums around their model of operation, whether they wish to remain incorporated or they wish to come under council's umbrella, if you like. So Councillor Mann and our coordinator have had meetings with Serena. Greenmount, I think, passed their motion on Sunday. No, Bridget's shaking, the director's shaking her head, so that's still being considered. So we're just having those discussions around trying to, I suppose, lessen the burden on our volunteers. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor May. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? I'll put the motion for adoption. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thanks. 10.3, the draft minutes of the Sport and Rec Advisory Committee. Councillor Payton, seconded by Councillor Engel. Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Your Worship. Unfortunately, we didn't have a full quorum at this meeting, so we did take the opportunity to have discussions with our council officers and state representatives, so it was still a viable discussion. So we have the next meeting tonight, and we've been told that we'll have full attendance. So.
Have we set the quorum levels too high, Councillor Payton?
No, I don't think there's an issue there. There must have just been an issue with last month. So, yep, we'll see how it continues.
Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion for adoption. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. 10.4, the Local Disaster Management Group minutes of the 18th of March. Councillor Casey moves, seconded by Councillor Engler. Councillor Casey.
Thank you, Your Worship. The minutes are pretty straightforward. The only emergency we had there was the severe weather event catalogued Carla Adams, our emergency managed coordinator for QFES, was going to do. Technology beat everybody, so that was carried over to our next meeting, so it should be interesting there too.
Thank you. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Put the motion for adoption. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Move on now to the consideration of the correspondence and officers' report. 11.1 is the Community and Client Services Monthly Review for March. CEO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, councillors. Again, pleasing, no major injuries in the department in March, although we continue to have smaller injuries that we continue to monitor and work on. Had a very successful Serena Queensland Women's Week dinner. It was a great night, well organised as is usual. They gave me one small job, Your Worship, to help the models up and down, and I lost one. So I'm pretty sure I've been sacked. So I think the first person ever to be sacked as a volunteer. I only have one job to do. The 2019 Mayor's Charity Ball has been launched, and great to see that's out, and I'm sure that'll be a great night. MRC was successful in receiving CAT-C funding to assist with recovery activities from the 2018 fires, and I think it's been said here before by the councillors that I think our staff has done a fantastic job through that bushfire recovery process. The financials for this department are tracking within 0.5% of budget, nothing that we're concerned about. I think Councillor May just mentioned it. We are working with Councillor Cam and our department on Greenmount, the number of volunteers. Sorry, Councillor. Got the Mayor's disease. Working with Councillor Mann, it's not a bad disease. So with Greenmount, we're sort of reducing numbers, very dedicated group of volunteers that's short. So we're working through some strategies, then we'll come back and talk to councillors how we might be able to make sure that very important asset is looked after well into the future. Great to see 17 of the 23 Better Community Building Fund projects are now finished. That's great to see, and something that we've been working through. So the collection of data for the SES research project has started. We've engaged someone to start collecting that data, which we are committed to doing. So that'll play out in the next month or so. Thank you.
Thanks, CEO. Questions for the CEO at all? Councillor Camp.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is around the emerging concerns that have been highlighted for the Havana and District Progress Association as under the Better Building Community Project. I note the Mackay basketball also fits in that category, but that's been rectified or is on track now with the announcement by the federal government. So just if the CEO could expand upon the risk around that project.
CEO.
That's a good question. I might make sure I don't say the wrong thing. The director has it. Just on the basketball thing, Councillor Cam, is that it was an issue, but they've got that extra funding now. So for the next report, that will be corrected. So I'm not sure of the exact detail on that banner, sorry.
So Director?
I'll take that on notice, I'm sorry. I know that they've had some issues with what they can do. I think it was bigger than they expected when they first put in that round of funding. So I'll come back to that session if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Further questions for the CEO on this report? Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just in relation to page 79 and the SES unit hours, I note there that there is 308 admin hours, which seems, and I'm not sure because we don't have a comparison of month to month, so it just seemed a bit high to me that there's a lot of hours in admin to do there. And my other question is it possible to have a comparison on a month-to-month basis of how we're tracking with our SES, both the numbers, the volunteer numbers, as well as the unit hours?
Numbers and unit hours should be okay, CEO. No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bonaventura.
Just on page 83, Your Worship, in relation to the point of the camera, I noted was out of action. Just 2 points. How long has it been out of action, and is it operational again?
CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. It was out for the whole month of March for maintenance, and it started again on the 3rd of April.
Okay, so it's back up and running. Thank you.
Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Worship. Just in regards to page 48 around financials, the health and legacy services, they've got a savings of 291,000 there. I was just wondering if that's if there's an issue with an underspend in that area, and it's also marked as on track. I would have expected that it might have been off track.
Right, CEO.
I'll get the director to give the detail. It'll be a timing issue. I haven't been advised that there's any major issues for the full year. We should get a bit more explanation.
It's a combination of a couple of things. One, the revenue is slightly up and the expenses are slightly down, and also there are some vacancies as well. So it's a combination of things that is distorting that month.
Councillor Payton.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor G. Councillor G. It wasn't there.
I don't have a question.
Oh, right, okay. Councillor Casey, we'll come back to you in a minute. Councillor Payton.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a conversation with a lady the other day, and she said she's having trouble with the pay stay, the machines and that there. Have we been notified of any problems with it?
Not that I've heard. CEO.
I know I haven't been, since the original introduction, I haven't heard anything positive or negative, to be honest. We haven't heard anything, which is probably a good thing for a council not to hear anything. So I take that as more positive than negative. We haven't heard anything at all.
She had an issue, they wouldn't accept the card, but the card works fine, and they talked through it and still wouldn't accept. So whether it was something wrong with her card or not, but she assures me that she used the card when she went shopping that day anyway. So I just wondering, that's all, because I haven't heard.
No, that's the first one I've heard too. So. All right, Councillor Payton, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Just in regards to the Better Community Building Fund, I was seeing as majority of these projects are at completion. I was just wondering whether we could get some feedback on, how everything's gone and what advantages, these funds have been.
So that's your situational statement on the result? CEO?
Yeah, so you're looking for more than just the explanation that it's completed. So you look a bit more of a feedback, like an audit after it's done, and did it deliver on what was originally put in the submission?
Yeah, basically just a one-off as such, not an ongoing report, but just to get an idea of how things went, but also what benefits the community got out of it as well, if they've seen.
CEO, we'll take that on board. Thank you. Councillor Angler.
Thank you, Worship. Electronic page 79, SES membership, non-active groups. I mentioned at the last meeting a month ago, the comment is pretty much exactly the same as last month, but we established that QFIS wasn't going to be the lead agency, but it still states here that it is. So I would expect that it is or it isn't, and next month that might be amended to reflect the reality.
CEO?
Yeah, sorry if we've missed it off.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's right.
Also, membership active groups. I notice Armstrong Beach has a new member, bringing its total to 6, which does constitute the correct amount of members to have a group. But again, I ask the question, is Armstrong Beach an active group? Does it have a vehicle? Does it have stores? Does it have a trailer? Can it activate as a group from that group? Because it mentions further down that the Armstrong Beach members are training at Serena. So unless they have all that equipment at that group, they're just members of Serena Group, correct?
Yeah, because the group's not active at the moment.
Yeah. So should we have Armstrong Beach in that active group? So is my question.
Okay, CEO?
Yeah, we're happy to show it however you like. I think a month ago when you asked us, we sent out a summary of what if this was the new format was what you were required. I'm not sure we actually heard back from you. So we're happy to show it in any way that people want it to be.
Yeah, I had a meeting with the director, and at that meeting we were quite clear about what constituted an active group. The reply email seemed good, but I'm just querying, we still have a group that's not active in the active groups.
All right, well, we can roll it into the Serena group then.
Thank you.
Councillor Casey.
Follow up for Councillor Payton. Do we have an acquittal system that they write back once the loan of the money has been spent to go through an acquitted or?
Right, CEO.
We changed the system last time, Councillor, where there was a little bit more robustness around it when we paid and didn't pay all up front. So there is an acquittal process to come through. Some of the projects where they asked us for a certain amount of money, it obviously went over that, but we capped it at what we'd agreed. But there is an acquittal process to make sure it was spent on what it was supposed to be. But that acquittal process is probably more an administrative than an explanation of benefit. It'll be more an administrative process rather than what Councillor Payton's asked for. Yeah.
Further questions? Somebody move the report's adoption. Councillor Mann, seconded by Councillor Angler. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Worship. So just in relation to the Serena Women's Week event, it was highly successful and very well attended. So when we started off doing the events, we started at the RSL with 120 people. To get to 198 this year is just amazing. And Serena community use every opportunity they can to recognise the wonderful work that's being done by other women in their community. In regard to the person that the CEO did lose, I did do a welfare check on her the next day and she was fine and still talking up his praises. So that was really good to see.
I don't think you should go too far.
Yeah. There were 22 awards presented, with Diane Barnett being the recipient of the Mary Malone Memorial Trophy, and that is always very meaningful in that region too, that award keeps being presented to honour Mary Malone, the work that she did in that community on an ongoing basis. So again, a strong focus on workplace health and safety with some minor incidents, but no LTIs, which is a really good result as well. The March CIC, Council and Community, hosted in the Northern Beaches area, was very successful despite the torrential rain to start with. We got over that, and the community catch-up was well attended. The community resilience art projects that were organised were well attended as well, and there was 2 held in both Midge Point and Eaton, and I think very well received, given I guess it was a bit of a way to debrief after what happened with those communities. And the Serena Youth Centre is really making a difference in the Serena region, and we got to see their Youth Week event that they hosted on Friday afternoon. I'm sure it was very well attended, and I'm sure the community is very appreciative of the work they do there as well. I also wanted to make mention of Stephen Pritchard, who is one of our Mackay Museum volunteers. He's on our Character and Heritage Advisory, and he's also on our Combined Museums Committee. He did a lot of work in organising or researching the Caneland Central 40th anniversary celebrations and may not have been recognised as such, but he did do a lot of work. He's a very proactive member of our committees, and we're very appreciative of the work that he does do. So I just wanted to highlight that he was indeed involved in that research, and we do appreciate what he did do. And with that, I'm happy to commend the report for adoption.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mann. Speaker against. Any other speakers? Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I really just wanted to reiterate the great work that the Serena Neighbourhood Centre did in pulling together the awards dinner. As Councillor Mann said, 198 people in attendance, yourself and the CEO, certainly made for a great night, and we recognised some fantastic women in the Serena area. The Unlimited Choices event that happened with the Youth Centre, again, another great event, little bit hampered by the weather, but I did drive past after we had been there in the afternoon, and they looked to be having a really fantastic time. And I think the other thing that is worthy of a great mention is the artwork that was created by the Swainsville School from the campuses. We know that post that Cyclone Debbie, where the campuses were split, one up on top of the range, one down at the school, and the children were asked to put together some drawings around how they seen that, and they then were put together with the two schools coming back together earlier at the start of this schooling year. And from that great piece of artwork was created, which yourself and other councillors then had the opportunity to present to not-for-profit organisations that had supported people through the Cyclone Debbie experience. So I think absolutely fantastic project. I think it will be one of those projects that will be remembered for a long, long time. So great work.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor May. Councillor Bonaventura.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just want to follow on from Councillor Mann's words in relation to the Council and Community Day. I think it was a good day. It was probably marked by some of the heaviest rain that we've had for the year, and I'd really like to thank councillors for their persistence in going through that inclement weather and no power at the northern beaches for a while. Can I also personally thank Councillor G, my fellow North Coast and Beaches rep, who organised the event in my absence. I was stranded in Townsville due to floodwaters for most of it. But, and look, from all aspects, I believe it was a good day. Some of the feedback has been great, and we're also continuing to follow up on some of the community consultation that we had. We also note Council was successful, some Category C funding from the Department of Communities to assist with recovery activities from the 2018 fires. I believe this was well received in relation to our previous one from Cyclone Debbie, so I can look forward to what staff have planned to help assist in that recovery area. Also, Your Worship, Councillor Walker and I attended the Progress Association's workshop on the 30th of March, and it was just a real pleasure actually to interact with them and listen to their interest in our region. And look, they were all keen to continue with that process. Also, having attended quite a few Progress Association meetings with yourself, Your Worship, they appreciate the attendance of community development staff. And I'd like to thank the Director for organising that, but they just see that as another link to Council, apart from Council laws, so it's working well. And just in relation to Councillor Mann's other comment in relation to the Community Resilience Arts Project, again, a very good result. Having attended the Mitch Point Progress Association meeting, I was there. I was able to present the two art pieces, one to the Progress Association and one to the Fishing Club, and yeah, they were quite nice and quite well put together. So it was a pleasure to be a part of that as well. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Any other speakers? It's been moved and seconded. I'll put the motion for adoption. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. The Capital Works Monthly Review, 11.2, CEO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Great to see no major injuries for the month and year to date in the department, and there's an excellent focus by the Director and his staff on safety. We're really starting to focus in on contractor management, having some good robust discussions around our strategies around that for the organisation in 1920. Total spend year to date is now just under 88 million after 9 months, so the Director's doing a fantastic job of spending our cash. With another $11.6 million spent in March. The beach restoration works at Midge Point and Lambert's Beach are progressing well. We've had favourable weather in a little while. There's a lot of discussions going on with progress associations and community groups about assisting us with the plantings. And we're working through that, trying to manage the contractors' obligations and the safety, but I'm sure we'll work through that. Great to see so many community members interested in helping us in that regard. For the first time, there's been a significant amount of input from the capital team through the directors' staff on the capital projects for next year, so that we make sure when we're assessing capital projects we can be confident of getting them done and scheduling. So that process has been embedded into the 1920 capital budget for the first time, which is great. Just under 1.4 million of key contracts were awarded for March, and you'll notice in the report as we work through it is that there's several photos and details around major projects. It's always good to see the photos of before and after and how those projects are going, so we continue to refine the report. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Yes, a good capital expenditure, reported as 102% against year to date, which is excellent. Spending cash. Questions, Councillor Ballard.
On page 91, I note on project 10390, plant equipment replacement program, there's a delay in the delivery of light fleet and small plant. If I could possibly ask, what reason we have behind that delay, is it going to make any impact on the cost of that program, and has it had any impact on our functional performance in that delay period?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Ballard. It's simply a timing issue. So we're just put a fleet coordinator on to separate out, to get more focus. It's about a $10 million spend every year around our yellow and white fleet, so it's a massive part of our capital budget. So we want to do more work that we're ready on the 1st of July each year to place the order for the equipment, so it all comes in time. We're still working our way through that. This is probably the best year we've had for a while. So what simply that is, there's been some equipment that's been placed on order that hasn't turned up when we thought it was going to turn up, or we were a bit late getting the order out. So we're absolutely confident it's not going to impact our service delivery, and it's just a timing issue. I think we have carried over a little bit of that funding. It'll be in the next reforecast, but again, the items would have all been ordered. It's about the delivery. So some things like graders can have a 6-month delivery. So we're trying to get, and the director's working with procurement, which is this department who looks after this, on how we can be ready, know exactly when the council approves our budget. We can place orders and we get them as early as we can in the financial year, and that's one of the fleet coordinator's roles as well.
Councillor Ballard.
Just more a comment than a question. I think that the fact that we have appointed a fleet coordinator and earlier on our assets register is a tremendous move, and I think it should actually, pay dividends. I think if your equipment isn't up to speed, service delivery will suffer and costs do suffer, so I'm very pleased with that. I'd like to thank the staff for that one.
Thanks, Councillor Ballard. Other questions, Councillor Mann?
Yeah, just on electronic page 89, while there was no LTIs, there was an incident where a vehicle was driven through water over a causeway. With all the messaging about if it's flooded, forget it, I'm just a bit puzzled as to why that would happen.
CEO.
As were we. Our staff are very, very good. It was, I believe it was a truck. It wasn't a light vehicle, and they believed they had sufficient clearance in the truck to go across. That wasn't the case. So again, as we do, and we're not too bad at now, Councillor, there was a robust discussion held not only within that department, across the whole business around making chat, and we've reinforced the message: if there's any doubt, do not take any of our equipment over a flooded causeway and wait. So it's probably, again, just one of those reminders that we thought everything was okay, and then, and look, this individual generally believed it was going to be okay, and it was in a truck, high clearance, but it wasn't. So yeah, so it's just a reminder for us to keep focusing on it.
Well flicked up, Councillor. Other questions? Councillor May.
So just on page 102 in relation to the Eaton water supply, and I read that project, if it hasn't already now been completed, it is just about there. But my question is in relation to the quality of the water, and is it possible for council to perhaps after, an initial sort of period that we do a survey of the residents of Eaton to see whether that equates to an improvement in the water quality there?
Yeah,
thank you. I'll just look at the director. I think that's a great idea. I think maybe it's 3 to 6 months to make sure. It'll be the hardness that they'll pick up predominantly, and that'll be that what it does to your hot water meters and all that. So you should see it for what we've done. So I think that's a great idea. So it came online in February, March. So maybe if it's all right, we can minute that we'll aim to have something out within the next 6 months. And is that okay?
Director, is there anything else?
Just through you, Mr. Chair, we're about to issue a press release and a letter to every resident just to give them the information. So as indicated, I think we can highlight in that we'll come back in 6 months' time just for feedback and on the change that they've seen in relation to water quality.
Thank you. Councillor Bauer.
Following on from Councillor May, if we're going to do that survey, I'd like to see an objective analysis of the water quality pre and post, so that we can get a bit of a feel on how public perception actually marries up with the actual analysis of that water, and see whether the expectation is actually higher than what we can deliver, or whether it's in line with that.
Okay, Director. Okay, thank you. Further questions? No further questions? Somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor May, seconded. Councillor Casey. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Look, it's capital has improved greatly, particularly in the last 12 months since our director has been on board. It's one of those areas of council that is always of great importance to make sure that we deliver on what we actually budget for in the particular year that it is budgeted for. There's some great projects there that have been completed, some still yet to come. I really just wanted to highlight the Serena sewer relining project. As we know, that problem in the Serena sewerage area down there has been a problem for forever and a day, you would have to say. And I think the recent rain events, we still had a problem with a handful of properties, but we have come a long way, and it's through the money that was allocated in the Capital Works program here, the Works for Queensland money, that has enabled that problem to start to be rectified. So we've still got a little way to go, but we're making some inroads into that. So there will be people that'll be very happy about that.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. 11.3 is the Office of the Mayor and CEO monthly report. There's one change to the table, the corrective action table on page 8. The number 1, the numeral 1 in the top line of that table of that report should be a 7. That's the only change on that one. CEO.
There's also another change. Worship, sorry. Just that there was the corrective action table had an error on the additions, and I handed that around by hard copy, and that'll be corrected for the minutes. MRC continues on the safety journey. Great to see no lost time injuries for March. I think it was raised before by Councillor Cam and others that just because lost time injuries are going well and the numbers are great, it hasn't in any way dampened our focus on our near misses and incidents and our all injury frequency rate, so we continue to work hard on that. Emergency repair works are being undertaken as necessary on the damaged sections of the road network after the rain event in January. We've got 90 days to do those emergency repairs under the funding. The geotechnical site investigations and engineering surveys of the Dalrymple Road landsip have been completed. The draft geotechnical report is just being finalised now, and that'll form the basis once we've reviewed it on our funding request to the QRA. Also, a preliminary design for the reconstruction of the Boundary Creek causeway is being prepared, also something that was damaged in the rain event in January. The design will need to address the fish passage requirements, and again, we'll get all that sorted and go through for funding. We have a discussion with councillors this afternoon. The 1920 budget is progressing well, ready for discussion with councillor.
Questions for the CEO? Councillor Mann.
So just in relation to the shovel-ready projects, the wave pool expressions of interest, when does that close?
CEO.
I'm looking past Councillor Mann to my executive officer who cringed like I did. So it was about 3 weeks, I think it was open, Councillor Mann. It would have been out for about a week now, a week and a couple of days. So I would have thought late next week, definitely by the end of April. Sorry, I don't know the exact date.
Further questions for the CEO? Somebody move the report's adoption, please. Councillor Mann, seconded by Councillor England. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Worship. Again, really high focus on workplace health and safety, and we're all aware of the importance and the focus this business does put on that. I recently took the opportunity to attend a workplace health and safety management meeting where, and very grateful for the CEO to invite me along. There's a whole range of topics actions and plans that are discussed. We might see a monthly report, but that doesn't reflect the amount of work that goes into making sure that our employees work in a very safe environment all the time. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity, and I would just say to other councillors, if they wanted to attend, it really does give a good idea of what's discussed and what the focus is. In regard to key capital projects, over 30, and most of them are on track, so all completed, so that is fantastic to see. Cyclone Debbie beach restoration projects are well underway, and the weather has been very favourable, which we're very lucky with, so I'm sure we're all looking forward to seeing those completed. Renewable energy projects are all tracking well as well, and if not complete, certainly very well advanced. So congratulations to the CEO and officers on the focus that they bring every month.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mann, speaker against. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Morgan speaking for.
Yes, Mayor. I just wanted to comment on the strategic volunteer program the council's doing. We get continually asked about volunteers wanting to help us deliver projects that we're putting out there, and Councillor Bonaventura and I had a meeting with the Hampton Valley Progress Association last week, and they're actually dying to help council do some of the work there. They want to maximise the budget that we've got. I think it's around $150,000. They want to maximise that spend on delivering things that they want in that park, and they're just crying out to be able to help. So I think it's important that we get that done so we can let these people get involved, which I think is good, and it gives them ownership in the actual park itself. So I really commend that program, and I hope we can get it sorted out quickly.
Thanks, Councillor Walker. Any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. 11.4 of the capital fees and charges for 2019-2020. So these have been circulated, and any questions that come back, CEO?
Thank you, Worship. This is the early adoption fees that we need to give. We believe we should give residents and commercial operators a lot of pre-warning, so it's our first budget decision really. As we've discussed with council, we've kept the increase generally at 2%. The only ones that are higher than that are some rounding and the waste levy introduction in some areas, which is a state introduced levy. There is some fees and charges we've kept at zero. Some of those are in the waste area to keep it to a whole number, just to make sense around that. But generally speaking, we've tried to keep to that 2%, which is CPI. And then by exception, some of the others, which again, most of them are to do with the waste levy.
Okay, thanks very much, CEO. Questions? Councillor Camp.
Mayor, my question is around the new safe food licensing star rating system that council was briefed on last month or the month before. I've gone back over that briefing, and it was not incorporated into that briefing, the fees and charges associated with that new program, which is a little disappointing to understand. So my question, I guess, to the CEO is around, while I think there should absolutely be incentive and encouragement of those food licensees that have a low star rating, we are looking at fee increases from a 3-star food premises annual licence fee from $426.40, which is a 2% increase, to, for example, a new fee incentive for a 5-star food licence, which is great, at $213. So it's halving that for a 5-star, which is fantastic. My question, I guess, is around the notice period. As part of the consultation of that food safe program, are all of our vendors aware that a 3-star and below, that in fact if they achieve a 4 or 5-star rating, that their fees and charges will actually be 50% less? Because from the briefing, there are 39% of businesses that were 3-star, and there are 10% of businesses that rate below that, which is almost 50% of our businesses in the region.
So yeah,
I might just confirm with the director about the notification.
I'll take that on notice where we're up to with. I know that as part of working with each of these businesses that there are notifications around that, but I would rather send out a session and be specific about where we're up to with, and I suspect each of them are different in terms of where we're up to with the notification process.
So CEO, it sounds like we do need a little bit further of a report. I mean, on the briefing, following up from the briefing and then the consultation program, so that we understand.
To add to that, Mayor, because my concern is, and it was outlined in the briefing, that those 3-star businesses will not be, they are only audited every 6 to 12 months. So if you are a 3-star business trying to achieve a 5-star rating, our service level is we will only audit you every 6 to 12 months, which was raised in the briefing. Are we then hindering, through the amount of resourcing we have, the opportunity for them to have 50% less fees and charges in their local business because of our timeframes? So I just have some concerns about the consultation and notification of businesses, both food licensing, food premises, as well as this affects home-based businesses, and it also affects vendors as well. So while we encourage that there is a big stick used in relation to and incentivising those businesses that aren't performing at a higher level, my concern is about inhibiting business that are aiming to be at that higher level, because after the briefing we don't have the information to know that those businesses have been informed that their fees and charges could be significantly decreased, which is a major incentive. That wasn't covered. I've gone back to the briefing and it's not covered. So I'm not comfortable in endorsing these fees and charges for the food safety without understanding what that consultation process has been with businesses.
CEO?
I don't think it was a question. I think it was a statement.
It is a statement, but I guess, so my question is why wasn't that covered in the briefing?
Director?
Given we're voting on this today.
Director, if you can answer.
I will need to come back with that, but the auditing process won't inhibit it. If people want to come back to us earlier and say that we think we will go outside that cycle to have a look at their business, particularly, as you say, if they want to reduce their fees. So if they come back and say, I'd rather be audited now, I don't need to wait for the 6 months, I'll put the corrective action in place, we will do that.
Okay, good.
Okay. So it's like, I'll take a question from Councillor Bella first.
Once again, more a statement because the director did answer my question. In one of my other roles in livestock and whatever, you can actually call for an audit at any stage if you have felt you've taken those corrective actions. I was going to suggest that that would be a very good thing, and I'm glad that we do that. In actual fact, in our case, we have to contribute to the audit. So I think that this is quite a good thing, and I think this should be viewed, if we purvey ourselves as a tourist destination, something like this is an encouragement for people to lift their standards, and there's nothing can destroy a destination than low food service standards. You see it almost every day in the Courier Mail in the Brisbane region, and I think this should be viewed as a carrot rather than a big stick. To drop fees by 50% is a tremendous thing. So I applaud the initiative.
Yeah, I think that's what the base of the question is. It's the fees are good. The incentivisation of is very good. It's just the consultation. Councillor May.
Just a question in relation to the current fees and charges. The 3-star rating, business charges plus the 2%, is that currently what businesses are paying?
CEO, Director.
The 2%, through you, Chair, the 2% was based on some existing fees and charges we have in relation to this particular category already. So we use them as the yardstick, if you like, to look at what we should do with the star rating. So they're existing fees and charges, and we use them as a benchmark for this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Cam.
Yeah, and it does outline in the report that that when they first apply, that is what their application is based upon. It is then when they're viewed. But I got a sense from the briefing that the staff, I did not get a sense that they could react within, I did not get a sense from the briefing that they could react within a very quick time frame if a business is to find out about this incentive to move from a 3-star to a 4 or a 5. That was not the sense I got from the discussion that we had.
So,
but,
Director.
it was up to resourcing is what I was advised, and prioritisation of that resourcing.
It would be a prioritisation, but if we know that a person would be going to a higher star and they could, and we would have a conversation with them about the compliance action that they needed to take, and we're convinced that they would do it, we would see them as quickly as we could.
Okay. So the CEO.
Can I respectfully suggest then that, just from my point of view, if everyone else was happy with all the other fees and charges, that we remove the food premises part of this and bring that back separately. And I'm not saying that we need to push through, I'm just really keen on some of the others to get consultation out. The same issue that's been raised by Councillor Cam about other fees. The earlier we tell people about what we're doing, if we took out anything to do with
the star ratings,
the star rating, which is food premises annual licence fees, we hold that out of this report, which goes all the way through on an electronic page I'm not sure if it's the same as yours, 147, 148. I'm not sure if 149 covers your concerns as well, Councillor Cam. I think that's okay. It's the food premises application licence fees. I think that's not new.
It's up to the last star rating.
Yeah, basically anything included of the new star rating, I think, has to be
the star rating is an excellent incentive. We just need to understand then the way we're going to treat that incentive and the consultation period. Councillor Bonaventura.
Your Worship, I'm not keen on taking this out and not voting on one section of this at this stage. I personally like to see it adopted as we have, because we're only the 10th of April. These fees are due in July, is my understanding. And if staff go out, if we know the fees are in there, they've already been approved, then those businesses have till the 1st of July to get to a point where they're ready to say, hey, I want to be a 4-star or a 5-star. And I would believe that staff would be able to say, righto, the deadline is the 1st of July, but if you're in the process of upgrading, we will hold that payment until such time as you have done that.
Okay.
So that's, I don't believe we should tinker with this at this stage.
It would seem to me as though if it's going to come back, it will come back in exactly the same format, with the exception that we have had a briefing about how the staff can interact with those food retailers who are going to be on the star system. So if that's the case, then our briefing needs to cover that interaction. CEO?
Yeah, I'd be hoping, Your Worship, that we can put something out in the next 2 weeks before the 24th April to satisfy any concerns about consultation or how we're going to do it, to make sure we pre-warn people and then see if we can bring it forward as quickly as possible. That section, I wouldn't be, we wait till end May to...
I'm happy to test as is, or accept an amended motion to remove it, with an option to come back at a later stage with a briefing around, a brief indication around how the consultation will be for those businesses who are going to apply for a star rating. Councillor May.
I was just going to say, wish to move an amendment.
Well, we haven't got a motion yet, so we're just doing questions. So you can foreshadow that, but okay. Are there any other questions? Councillor Cam.
I have a question. It is on a confidential fees and charge, so which we can't really talk about.
We can talk about it when we go into confidential.
But we're adopting it as part of this. The confidential fees and charges we're adopting separately. So I'll raise the question.
Okay. Are there, Councillor Bonaventura?
No, Your Worship, happy to move the fees and charges as is.
Okay. Councillor Bonaventura moves. Is there a second there? Councillor Walker. Councillor Bonaventura.
Oh, Your Worship, we've had those for quite a while, and I'm happy to say that they are as put.
Councillor May.
So I'd like to move an amendment to the motion that the fees and charges regarding the star ratings be removed and be presented back to council at a later date.
With an associated briefing around?
With a clarification around the consultation process, the awareness process of food licence premises being informed as to the change and how that's going to impact them.
I think it's an important part of the motion. All right, a seconder to that, Councillor Cam. We'll deal with the amended motion. Councillor May, do you wish to speak any further to the amended motion?
Look, only to say, Your Worship, I think it's far better when we're setting fees and charges that all councillors that sit around this table are completely satisfied and have a good understanding of what's being asked, because there's no changing this. We're setting this, it implicates our budget, and the more that we have, the more information that we have, and the more settled that we are that this is what we need to do, that's just the best way to go.
Speaker against? Councillor Bonaventura.
Your Worship, removing the star rating from today's vote will only prolong the time frame or shorten the time frame that businesses have to change their business practices. As you said today, it's going to come back probably in the same way. We're just going to have a bit of time to do that. But I think if we adopt it now, staff can go straight out, advise businesses what the changes are, give them the chance, and the sooner we get that out there, the better. So I say vote no to the amendment.
Speaker 4, Councillor Kane.
Thank you, Mayor. My concern around this is not the level of the fees and charges, nor is it the 5-star food rating, which I very much endorse. My concern around this is that almost 50% of businesses operate with a 3-star rating or less, based upon the information that we have at hand in the briefing that was provided on the 5-star program. With that in mind, certainly consultation is very important, but our officers having the ability to go out and respond to requests from businesses, which I would see would increase an expectation of service level by our food and safety officers to go out there to inspect businesses, because of this amazing incentive that's been put forward within the fees and charges, where businesses will save up to 50% of fees and charges if they were to receive a 5-star food rating. I, from the briefing, am not comfortable that we have enough officers in place that could respond to that in a quickly, timely manner that is not going to upset business who are trying very hard and very diligently under this new incentive regime to be able to save some dollars on their registration fees. In particular, and I draw Council's attention to the briefing that was given in February, is that at the moment, the auditing for 3-star businesses is 6 to 12 months, and that was not going to change. It was 6 to 12 months. If you sit at a 0 to 1 star, it is to 2-star, it is every 3 months. And that is where the priority will lay, because that is where the most risk is. But for all those businesses doing a great job at 3-star who want to increase and do the best job they can, right now, I'm not confident, without more detail, that we have the service level right and the resourcing right for our officers to be able to respond to that, to allow these businesses to take advantage of this great discount and this incentive under the Food Safe. So I'm urging you that we get that information, which was not incorporated into the initial briefing, and so that councils can be comfortable when we're dealing with businesses and food vendors and home-based business, that we are giving them every opportunity to take advantage of this incentive.
Okay. Speaker against, Councillor Ballard.
If, as you say, this is going to come back in 2 weeks with very little change, if any at all, then I agree with Councillor Cam in that time is of the essence. Therefore, that actually reinforces Councillor Bonaventura's argument that we really need to get this rolling as quick as possible. What we need to realise is that fees and charges are probably the fairest way to levy the people in our region, because it is a user-pays system. They reflect the costs that council incurs in policing and controlling and maintaining what's going on in our region. And there's many reasons for doing this, because there are fines for environmental breaches can impact council quite savagely. Thus, we've got to be pretty careful with this. If it weren't for fees and charges, what we would see is the average ratepayer bearing the cost of activities which they're not involved in any way. So from this point of view, I think that there is an urgency in passing this. I think the strategy of the star rating is excellent. I agree with Councillor Cam. Audits take time, therefore time is of the essence, which reinforces the fact that the sooner we get this through, the better.
Okay. Speaker 4. Are there any other speakers on the amendment? Councillor Bonaventura?
Just, yes. It'll come to me in a sec.
Did you have time, Councillor?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Councillor G, did you wish to speak for or against?
For, thanks.
For the amendment?
Yes, yes, Mr. Mayor. Small business is a struggle all the time. The more information we can actually collect together about a fee, a reward or a penalty for service should be, that they should be aware, an awareness camp, they are aware. So I would like a bit more detail to make a better decision on the back of small business is a struggle and every dollar counts. So if say a business needs to invest in their building that's a big expense. They need that time frame to save up and make that investment before they're slapped with a 3-star instead of a 5-star. And I've questioned this since the briefing. I think we're in a lot of ways doubling up on the health and regulatory services. They've already got standards in place, so I'm more than happy with the amendment to get more information.
Speaker against the amendment.
If you will indulge me, Your Worship, this time.
Yes.
Look, Your Worship, from that briefing, I also recall that staff did tell us that many of our businesses are at the 3-star level, which is where I understand we based the mid-range, so they will receive a 2% rise, which would have been expected anyway. So they're at that level anyway. So everybody was at that level. So from between now, if we give them the go-ahead as soon as we can, from now till the 1st of July, they have the option to try and improve their business to gain a 4 or 5-star. And if they don't, well, then they will fall the other way. So I believe the sooner we get this out there, so again, I'll say I urge my councillors to vote no for this amendment and leave the fees and charges as they stand. The other thing, Your Worship, I do question how we remove one section out of our paperwork for this meeting, to take one section out. Is that possible?
We can do that. Okay. Councillor May, are there any other speakers? Councillor Engler, are you speaking for or against that?
Worship, look, it's our job to do the right thing in the right place at the right time. You know, I'm not satisfied to just say, let's just do this anyway, and then we'll fix it afterwards. So I'd rather do the right thing at the right place at the right time, and if we need more information, if councillors feel they need more information, I support that. I don't want to do something and then just say, well, we've done that now, that's what we have to do, and we'll just do something to fix it later on. So I support that.
Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? Councillor Casey, you speaking against? You speaking against?
Yeah, speaking against. I agree with what's been said around here, but I think we're delving into operational. I have every faith in the CEO and the Director to advise local laws and get on with the job from there, so I'll be voting against the motion.
Speaker for. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Bella, you've probably got a minute left.
So a little take. What we've got to remember here is this is not the imposition of an increased charge. This is the opportunity for people to take advantage of a discount. And the more time we give them, anyone that's run a business, as I have all of my life, time is of the essence, because you've got to run the business, then you've got to handle, you know, this process of taking advantage of a discount. So 2 weeks is hugely important to anyone. Otherwise, we have May and June, and that's not very long from a business point of view.
Okay. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just to sum up exactly what we're doing here, we are not questioning the fees and charges. We are questioning how that's going to impact on business once they've been implicated into the regime. If anybody that sits around this table thinks that our officers are going to audit all of our food licence businesses between today and the 30th of June, you need to think again, because we don't have those sorts of resources. So this is really about providing some more information to have clarity around how this is going to work as far as our food licence premises and that are concerned. And I think it's a very poor showing that councillors sit around this table and deny further information to other councillors so that they can make an informed decision.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. I'll put the amended motion, and the amendment is that the food star ratings be removed from the fees and charges and be brought forward at a later date. A report to be prepared on how the health food star rating fees and charges will be implemented, and that in accordance with the local government, the council adopts the fees and charges schedule as attached. So that's the amended motion. Those in favour of the amended motion? Those against?
So we just hold hands up for a bit of time.
Okay, so no, I haven't voted. So I'll put I'll put the motion again. I'll vote this time. Those in favour of the amended motion? So I'll vote for the amendment. Those against? The amended motion is carried.
Can we just wait to give Renee a chance to put that? You'll do it later. Okay.
we're done with the fees and charges. The rest of it can come back. 11.5 is the Strategic Asset Management Plan. CEO.
I'll be very quick, councillors. This is just part of the journey we're on. I know this was circulated around. It's great to see. It's a good plan. It's only the start of a long journey we need to work on. I think it's a good document, and we're looking forward to moving forward on making our asset management practices in the organisation benchmark.
Questions for the CEO of the Strategic Asset Management Plan? No questions. Somebody like to move? Councillor May moves. Councillor Walker seconds. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Worship. I'm not sure it's just a plan, as the CEO had said. This is a very valuable piece of documentation for our council. Yeah. And if you've been in council a number of years, you will have seen requirements of the state government come and go for asset management plans. And I think having chaired the Asset Management Advisory Committee for the LGAQ, we are one of the councils that is leading the way in asset management. We were fortunate enough to adopt our new structure in the March meeting, and this now with the asset management plan being documented and ready to start to implement that will set us on a journey of being able to look after the billions of dollars worth of the assets that this council has ownership of for the community, and to make sure that we renew, replace and reconstruct when in a timely manner, using the best resources that we have to hand and the best finances, capital that we have to hand. So I think it's a really important day for our council to be, first of all, having adopted the new structure in the March meeting and now the plan at this meeting. So it's a great step forward, and I commend the staff that have been working on that for a number of many years.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Mann. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. And point 6 is the facilitating development in the Mackay region policy for the residential development at Plantation Palms stages, as mentioned there. This is per our policy, but it's the old policy. It's come to the council assessed under the old policy, as you would have read in that, CEO.
Probably done my only thing I wanted to make, right. Your Worship. So it's for Plantation Palms, multiple stages. It's the only point I wanted to make was that this was submitted prior to the 28th of November decision of council to amend the policy. So in fairness, that's what we do for everything else. We've assessed this under that. Probably the only other comment I'd like to make is we do have a cap under the old policy of $500,000. The number came out and the recommendation was $549,716.46. So we have applied the cap to $500,000 in our recommendation.
Questions? Councillor Bonaventura.
Oh, just in relation to the fact that their $500,000 reduction in their fees, Your Worship, just when are they due and payable?
CEO. Director.
Like any other infrastructure charge, I'll have to pay them before the survey plan is signed off.
Okay, so we have got another one coming up, and they pay at. They've asked for that to be paid to pay that at the end when each lot is.
Which other one are we talking about?
11.7. So there is a difference. This one hasn't asked for that. So when are they due and payable?
Through the chair, I'd have to check, but understanding the standard process is that they're due and payable before the survey plan is signed off on. Whether there's some different process that's been agreed for this one, I'm not sure. I have to take that on.
Doesn't indicate it. No. So if it's nothing not indicated, that will be, and when the survey plans come. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Further questions? Councillor Walker.
I just had one question.
Yes.
With the utilising local contractors and suppliers, how do we judge whether they're using that to the maximum or not? Like, we see this in these contracts. How do we actually know that they're maximising the use of these local people?
That's a good question, CEO.
I'll get the
Director.
Yeah, sorry, I'll have to take that on notice. I'm not sure how we assess that. I'd have to take officers advice.
Can you circularise something to give us an answer to that?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Walker. Councillor Ballard.
Just a quick one following on from Councillor Walker. If, while we're looking into this, if we find that someone has been given this discount and we find that they aren't actually maximising the use of local contractors and suppliers, is there a revision of that discount? And do we have the power to revise that?
CEO.
I'd be very surprised that we have
Director.
legal power to get money back.
How it would normally work is through the chair, the local contractors and suppliers would be used while the construction of the subdivision is occurring, and then the fees would be payable at the end of that time before the signing off of the survey plan. So we would have an idea of who they're using. I'll have to find out what the exact process is for us to do that, but that work would occur before those fees become payable. And then the discount applies subsequently.
Further questions? No further questions. Moved by Councillor Cam, seconded by Councillor Casey. Councillor Cam.
Thank you, Mayor. This is fantastic to see, and good on them for getting in before we changed the policy to their advantage. But Plantation Palms certainly was quite an innovative development back in its day, with lot sizes between 400 and 500 square metre lots out there in the Northern Beaches. So the product that they've delivered across the region was something that was very new and innovative for the Northern Beaches that traditionally had much larger lots as well. It does the development, which is right next to the high school and the other schools in the area. It's fantastic to see that out of the 97 lots, 83% of those lots have been sold to residents with a 4740 postcode, and 17% have been sold to local builders. So we look forward to seeing future display village hopefully there as well. With that, obviously the reason we have this incentive is because of the economic benefit both to the construction industry, the construction of the estate, as well as the building of new homes and the multiplier effect that has on the building industry, including local hardware and other shops across our region that operate in the retail homewares space, as well as it's going to be a significant increase in rateable properties to the Mackay local government area of 97 new properties, which is fantastic. And what that also demonstrates to us is that we are a region that is now starting to grow, and that's a really great story for us to be out there and telling as we see the economy turn. So with that, I'm pleased to be able to move this motion today.
Thank you very much. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. 11.7 is again a development in the Mackay region, reconfiguration of a lot at Kerrisdale Gardens. CEO, it's been pretty well straightforward. Same sort of assessment process as we dealt with the last one. Are there questions? Somebody like to move then? Councillor Casey moves, seconded by Councillor Walker. Councillor Casey.
Just follows on from Councillor Cam there last time. It's great to see that there's activity in the building industry here again in Mackay.
Thank you very much. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. 11.8, the adoption of council policies. There's two council policies now. The standing orders, we missed a couple of parts in the first time we adopted this following the Belcara legislation. We actually missed the part where it gave, we'd adopted councillors to speak twice last time. So I was of two minds to put it back, but no, so that's what we had to put it back to the council this time for, and there's another paragraph that we missed out too from our standing. Any questions? Any questions on the second one, the drinking water policy? No questions? Somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor Cam, seconded by Councillor Walker. Councillor Cam.
Both very, very important policies, Mayor. No probably further explanation apart from standing orders, really do outline how we conduct ourselves in these meetings, and so it's good to see that those updates, and also that there is an opportunity for councillors to speak twice. And obviously the drinking water quality policy is significant for the health of our region. So.
Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Petitions, we've got a couple of petitions to receive. Prioritisation of the construction of aquatic facilities in the Northern Beaches. CEO, we're just receiving, no questions. We're just here to receive this. That's the adoption. Really is that petition be received and the petitioner be advised of the council's determination. Go to the CEO. Somebody like to move? Councillor G moves. Councillor Casey seconds. Councillor G.
We're just receiving this petition today, so basically I think a few residents out there say we're a huge demographic, about 22,000. Please consider us for the next spend on aquatic facilities.
Thank you. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. 12.2 is the petition requesting the budget funding for the construction of a formalised boat ramp Are there any questions on this one? Once again, it's a petition to be received. Councillor Mann, you've got a question?
I just wanted to reiterate, we're not doing the construction ourselves. It would be the car parking, wouldn't it?
The CEO would come back to us after the investigation.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Kemp. So that's typical, depending on whether it's gazetted, ungazetted, and the water side is typically the state, and the land side is typically the council. So we'll put that on the report on what it would be, and what it would look like, and where it sits in our priorities currently for your consideration.
We just want to receive or otherwise this petition today. Councillor G moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor G.
Again, Mr. Mayor, we're just receiving this today. I think it's. I'm glad to receive it. Slate Point should have a boat ramp. Again, demographic on the ocean.
We're just receiving the petition.
I know. It's a great idea.
Okay, thank you. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. No tenders, no consideration of notified motions, public participation. We've got a couple of people wishing to participate in our public meeting today. So just for your edification, obviously the live streaming notification up there, you have 3 minutes to speak to council and about what you've registered on our list here today to speak to council on. And this is not an interactive session, so it's just you presenting and we listening. So first of all, Jan Beecham.
Hello. I was just inquiring why the green waste was, the price went up from 7 to 10. We're on half an acre and, we have lots of green waste. Maybe, some more vouchers could be put in the rates, because those on the smaller lots obviously don't grow a lot of trees, and we have, which is probably our choice, but I just wondered why the price went up. And the other item I've got there is I'm in the Scope Club, and we're having a conference in June, and we're wondering who we could ask as an Indigenous speaker at the opening of our conference.
All right, well, we'll refer that to the CEO. The CEO will get back to you on both of those questions.
Okay,
thank you very much. Jeanette Camp.
Good morning. I'd just like to inquire about Lambert's Beach. It's a heck of a mess at the moment from one end to the other. Is that really necessary? Couldn't they do section at a time? There's a wee section that they've opened where the children's playground is, and the one covered in area, and the toilets, but apart from that, it's just a mess, and it's all cordoned off. And we're having our conference there, national conference there in June, and at the Seabreeze Tavern, and it's going to look awful yucky.
All right, so we got the CEO to get in touch with you about that and give you the outline of the works on Lambert's Beach and our expectation for completion.
I might just say quickly that it's planned to be completed by the end of May. So your conference will be fine.
3 years. It doesn't look as if
right, so that's the only
anyway.
That's the only public participation we've got registered today. Anybody else come along thinking that they're going to participate and not registered? Okay, thank you very much. Late business, councillors. Councillor Mann.
Your Worship, I just wanted to make mention of Morag Medical Reserve. So Medical family have been around the Mackay region for a long, long time, and they did have a parcel of land at Andergrove that was passed to council's care by the family on the proviso that it remained a reserve. I participate in the working bees at Morag Medical Reserve on a monthly basis, and I just wanted to pass on to officers the gratitude of the Friends of Morag McNichol Reserve to our natural environment team and also our habitat restoration team. They continually see the work that they are carrying out there. They continually see that the council's willingness to work with the group, because they are a proactive group themselves and would like to complete work as well. But it's just an ongoing partnership that they're very grateful for, so I just wanted to pass that on behalf of the group.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mann. Any other items of late business? Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Councillor Mann and I attended the launch of the Heritage Festival in Brisbane last week, and I just wanted to it was a very enlightening guest speaker by the name of John Schofield, Professor, and I just wanted to read, this sort of encapsulates, that sets the scene for the heritage. So heritage is not simply about the past, it is virtually about the present and the future. A heritage that is disjoined from ongoing life has limited value. Heritage involves continuous creation and transformation, and we can make heritage by adding new ideas to old ideas. Heritage is never merely something to be conserved or protected, but rather to be modified and enhanced. And I think as a council, if we embrace that type of thinking when it comes to our cultural and heritage and our museums, we will be in a much better place in years to come.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. Councillor Ballard.
Could I just ask if we could receive a copy of that quote from Councillor May? It's outstanding. Thank you.
You circulate it to everybody. Thank you very much. Councillor G, do you have a item of late business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
This Saturday, 3 o'clock, who would have thought Mackay's got our the first heat for the skate comp at the Sugar Bowl. Later this year we'll be hosting the state titles, and I think we've secured the next 3 years. So I'm going to go down there and see how much the local talent's improved over the last 6 months since we've had the Sugar Bowl.
Thank you very much.
Does that include you
Councillor
too,
G? I'll be down to see you in plaster next week. Are there other items of late business? No other items of late business. Councillors, we have a couple of confidential reports to consider, one being, of course, the confidential fees and charges. And probably we need to move into confidential to discuss that. Councillor Cam moves that we close the meeting to the public. Councillor Casey seconds. All those in favour? Any against? It's carried. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen.